The movie begins with Mike, who was undergoing military training, trying to get out of the building when he gets shot on the way, taking out all the targets. As soon as he gets out of the facility, he is shot by his teammate, Wade Jenkins, and one of his other teammates appears, named Bruno, who comes angry at Michael for dropping him down the stairs. Despite his accusation, Mike defends himself by reminding him that if he does not perform the exercises as if they are real, he will die without doubt when it's real. Then walks Mike and Walid Genghis, who is talking about his world-renowned military company, while he brings up a possible promotion to Mike, where he will become director of the Secret Service, and asks him for a position, adding kind words to his team for training in this field, so Mike promises him to do what he can do. Recently, Mike was suffering from migraines and insomnia, so he went to see a doctor about this issue, but he hid his illness. And he made it a secret from President Trumbull and his wife Lee, so the doctor indicated that there was a disaster waiting for him. Mike and Lee had to take care of their adorable daughter, Alan, which made him more reluctant to assume the position of director. Later, he goes to the White House to hold a press conference along with Trumbull and David Gantry. To make it clear that he plans to create a better foreign policy, later Mike joins Trumbull on a hunting trip with other agents, tells Trumbull. Mike personally chose him for the position of director, so he accepted. Moments later, the men discover a swarm flocking towards them as if they were strobing bats. Suddenly they realize that they are drones and start shooting at the agents. While the men die, Mike jumps into the lake to protect the trampoline. He hid in the water. Mike was able to face these problems in a safe place before they both lost consciousness. Later, the two were taken to the hospital and Trumbull went into a coma. Because of this, Vice President Martin Kirby is sworn in and assumes the presidency. Ollie rushes to the hospital with Lynn to see Mike. Later, Mike meets FBI agent Helen Thompson, who begins to question him about his possible involvement in the plane attack. It turns out that evidence was found in the truck that activated the drones, which indicates that Mike may have carried out the attack. Where his hair and skin cells were found, in addition to similar remains. For those in his garage, Mike thinks that it was prepared by Thompson, confirming that he is really involved. Later, Mike is detained, and after a short period of time, a group attacks the escort team and kills them. Then they take Mike with them in the truck. He quarrels with them and ends up crashing into a tree in the forest. It turns out to be Bruno. And who was in his team during training. This is what prompted him to think that his team of those involved should arm themselves. Later, the authorities come. The authorities discover the presence of all the dead at the same time. It turns out that Nix is the mastermind behind the attacks, and he deliberately prepared them and took some hair and skin remains from Mike until it was revealed through a DNA test that he was behind it. Mike calls Billy through a payphone to let them know he's okay, but the call is traced by Detective Thompson. Lee tells him they've been receiving death threats, but Mike suddenly cuts off the call when two men try to catch up. He is wanted for his arrest. Mike managed to disarm them and escaped again by hijacking another armed truck. Later, the authorities were able to monitor the truck and chase him. The truck overturned and he managed to escape again. At the same time, Kirby talks with other White House officials about the possible involvement of the Russian government in the assassination attempt and what they can do to resolve this issue, and we later told a live press conference that Mike was fully involved in attack. He is working with Russia, and he adds that he has hired a private contractor to assist in a retaliatory attack against Russia. Later, Mike continues to drive and meets an old man named Clay, and it turns out that he is his father, who left him when he was young. Mike managed to track him down and learned where he was hiding for a while. Clay lived alone in a hut, ready for any possible attack. Still hurting from being abandoned, Jenkins tracks Mike to the location of Clay's home and sends his men, who head out to fight. Clay, with his help, Mike, detonates explosives that he previously distributed around his house, and defeats a number of the remaining men on his own. And it turns out that they were all killed. The next morning, Clay was listening to the radio, so Mike cut off Jenkins' contacts after they realized that he was behind that whole operation. The whole plan required a declaration of war, so the world would collect contracts and agents. Mike and his father, while stopping in search of gas, Mike hears on the radio that Trumbull responds to stimuli, but he knows that Jenkins will not stop until Trumbull dies, so Clay reminds him of what he will lose. After that, Thompson and her companions come to the forest in the place of Clay's house. After that, Thompson and her companions come to the forest at the place of Clay's house and find all her prominent agents killed him, and because she knows what was responsible in Iraq, she begins to suspect that Mike is innocent. Jenkins obeys his orders and sends his men to Mike's house to kidnap Lee and Allen when they are taken outside. Clay suddenly appears and kills the two men who were trying to kidnap them. Lily explains what happened and expresses his remorse for abandoning Mike and promises them that he will protect them. At the same time, Thompson and her partner were flying to the base to confront Jenek Trumbull, who just woke up. He goes upstairs and unfortunately he gets caught, but Trumbull orders his men to bring Mike to him. Mike asserts that he is innocent, and Trumbull confirms that by saying, if it weren't for Mike's courage, he wouldn't have survived. In those moments, Mike realizes that the hospital's computer system has been hacked to release gas into the rooms and knows they plan to blow up the hospital, and the entire building is evacuated, while the top tech agents discover that Jenkins is responsible. Before he arrives, gunfire takes place between Jenkins' men and the clients, while Mike runs and carries Trumbull to a safe place. Jenkins tries to kill both of them, and it turns out that the intensive care unit in the hospital was bombed. A tired Mike Trumbull leaves with the guards as he heads out to kill the rest of Jenkins' collaborators, shooting and blowing up nearly every man before they are apprehended by a military group. Jenkins tries to escape by helicopter, but Michael destroys it. Then they confront and end up stabbing Mike Jenkins and leaving him to bleed to death. After that, Mike is acquitted while Trumbull and the customers learn about Kirby's involvement clearly and he is arrested. Clay lives with Mike. Later, Mike goes to meet Trumbull to tell him he wants to quit and apologizes for not telling him about his recent medical problem. And he admits that he is not fit and not good enough to protect him. Trumbull forgives him. He says that the position of Director of Secret Intelligence is still standing, so Mike accepts. In the end, Mike spends a wonderful time with his father and his family, making up for lost time.